Okay, this is the big point of all the problems in this house that we've argued over and over with the builder about, but basically he thinks it's fine. So we paid an extra $3,000 to do floor-to-wall tiles. So this is the finishes. So come to the front edge and we're talking paint marks off all the corners. You can see that the aluminium trim is flush with the wall here. As you go up the wall, the trim becomes indented. So you can see that there's a lip at the top. And as you go down, bloop, 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 becomes flush with the wall again. But then the half wall underneath isn't flush and is protruding with the aluminium trim. All the way down to the floor, marks off the wall, marks off the wall. End of the timber is only undercoated. Come across. We go back up the trim. We come to the corners that, as you can see, are sharp and jagged. Same with the back edge, no cappings on them. And then we go up to the top of the aluminium trim for the glass, and it's not even cut to the right length. Come back down that same wall to the bottom, and we have a gap in the silicon, and the silicon bead is super thick. We're talking, in some spots, almost a centimetre. And back up the wall. And go to the render in the corner, or the in the corner. And then go across the top. And you can see that the tiles aren't in line. There's big gaps, small gaps, big gaps, small gaps. All the way across the top. And then we come down. This side's a bit better with the aluminium trim for the glass. You can see the beadwork is very, very average. So the first argument with the builder was the floor. None of this tile was cut, it was just full square blocks around it. When you turned the twin overhead showers on, the water would come down, it would pool around the drain, it would then exit the shower, it would come across the floor, it would then come to the secondary drain, it would go around that, it would then flow the full length of the ensuite until it got to the door. Argued with the builder, he said it was fine, it was just a caulking issue. He then said that he had fixed the issue by putting a metal strip between the two half walls. I then advised the QBCC about it. They spoke to him and were advised that the issue was fixed. Obviously the builder's then decided it's not a fix, so he's come back and he's had the tilers cut the tiles and flow it in the drain, which is fine. But the issue now is that there is a ramp at the front of the shower. So this ramp here, and as you can see, the tiles don't line up, which is a bit hard with that light. So the tiles don't line up. There's a giant lip that you now have to walk up and over into the shower. All the silicone work, once again on the front edges, is bad. The aluminium trims, you have protruding lips, none of it's flush. Then go to the niche which is probably one of the worst bits. So you can see that the trim is exposed. They've tried to grind it down to make it better, which is a joke. And then you can see that this piece is flush, and you go up and this piece is indented and then protruding. The silicon, once again, is pretty thick along these parts because the tiles weren't cut properly. And then the other end of the trim, you can see at the bottom, it's nice. Go to the top, it's blown out. Once again, there's a lip there, and you go down here and there's no lip. This is the joining, or the silicon around the bench top. If we go up along here, you can see the tile work isn't completely straight, but the big point in the tile work here is this is directly above the basins, which is the tile cut, and this is the second basin and the light, and you can see there's a hole protruding, and then the silicon work over here is pretty much non-existent until you get to the corner, and then down she comes. The mirror is about the 160 mark, so to look into the mirror you have to bend. The height of the benches comes up to just above my knees. I don't know why it's so low, weren't consulted on that. And then the silicon under the actual basins, you can see goes thick, and then it's to a point where it's even thicker, and then goes back to close to normal, and then protrudes all the way along the end, and then we come out. Wait for the camera to adjust. We get to the corner into the toilet, and as you can see the painting is shoddy again. Across the toilet door to the opposite corner, and then you can see the silicon work. There's a lip here, tiles aren't flush, and then silicon gets fatter and fatter, and then there's actually a dip here, so it goes, it's not flush, there's a rise and then a dip down into the silicon, and as you can see the gap is pretty large. And then we get to the end, once again barely coated timber, silicon work, end capping with a mark. The trim for this part of the wall is better at the top than the bottom, but once again it's not flush with the wall, so we're talking protruding trim all the way down. It gets worse as you get to the bottom. And then we go into the toilet. So toilet door jamb, marks out of it. Once again, rough cut miter joint for the inset. Paint marks. This is the top of the floor to ceiling tiles above the toilet cistern. As you can see, very average finish. The tile joints around the window for the white tiles, the cuts are rough. As you can see, all jagged edges. Paintwork's bad above the window. Zoom in for me, or adjust the light. Marks along here. Top of the door, not done. Lock, it's a big rub mark on there, not set in properly. Marks on the doors, pinholes all the way up for the joins. tile work doesn't infill the cornice, or the cornice doesn't go all the way to the end. So it's like a weird gap at that end, as well as there. Around the shower heads, there is, it's a bit hard to see because of the light, but around this piece here, there's patch marks. This one is worse. There's square patch marks all around the hole. Top of the trim on the left hand side of the walkway.